Hey, welcome back to TechMaker. This is Scraping the Web with Ruby, Part 5. We left off in the last episode having just set up our listing object, on which we can call methods like property title and price per month. Okay, so in this episode, what we need to do is actually iterate through all of the entire page and aggregate all of the listings. We also need to do a little bit of formatting on our data so that it actually represents something that we can actually do something with. So for example, when we have $2,100 with a dollar sign, we need to get rid of the dollar sign and turn that into an actual number that we can use. So in the first couple of episodes, we worked out this code that I've pasted in here for different contexts, doing just slightly different things. In this case, what we're going to do is try to modify this code so that we can actually use it in this context. So the first thing I'm going to do is grab this find indexes for and just copy it. And then we're going to jump back into the terminal and see if we can actually pull back all the indexes of our listings with it. All right, so what I'm going to do is just open up a new IRB session. I'm going to require OpenURI. And I'm just going to paste in this function. I also went and grabbed the URL for Craigslist that we've been using, so I'm just going to store that in URL. And I'm going to say HTML, well, we'll do this way. We've been doing it, so doc equals open URL. And then we'll say HTML equals doc.read. And then if we scroll back up, it's quite a long doc. Sorry if that's hurting anybody's head. So we have find indexes for HTML and then identifier. If you will recall, our identifier, believe we were setting it like li class equals result row, and then close it off without the double quote. And then we should be able to say find indexes for HTML identifier. Let's see what this gives us. Okay, and then if we count those, it's 120, so that's exactly what we expected. So I'm going to make the assumption, and we may have to challenge this assumption later. I'm going to make this assumption that this works properly. And I'm just going to put it in this scraper class as, just paste it, and then we'll make it a self method. So what is that going to do? That's going to find the indexes for us for where those result rows are. So what we would like to do up here is say something like indexes equal let's see, so let's say find indexes for HTML, and then this string, which I'm going to make the identifier, like that. Okay. Now what we ought to be able to do is, well, we can also replace this as, say, identifier. So what we need to do is actually make this find item take a, you know what, I kind of screwed that up. That does not go there, that goes there. So I was like, wait a minute, there should be 3 arguments. Okay, so what we should be able to do is pass this an index. So we ought to be able to say something like, I'm wondering if I can go indexes.each do index, and then say listing markup. This is similar to what we'll end up with. That should be map. And then we'll that will just get returned. So when we run it, we'll get back an array of listings in theory. So what we ought to be able to do is say index ... -1 right here. So it'll just start looking at the index through the end of the string, and it'll scan until it finds this list item. That might work, it might not. We're going to try it and we'll see what errors or not errors it gives us. So back in the terminal, we need to rerun IRB. We need to require our scraper. And we should have scraper, just sanity check that. And then I'm just trying to remember, I think that just takes a URL. I just forgot. I'm going crazy. So we'll say run. Give it the Craigslist URL and we'll see what we get. Okay, so let's check what we got. So we'll say listings equals underscore listings.first. What is it? So it's a listing object. I mean, this looks like what we wanted, right? So we'll say listing.first.price per month. $3,675. Let's do this. Let's say listings.map and price per month. What this does, if you're not that familiar with Ruby, is it iterates through every object. Map will store the result of whatever is about to happen in an array. The ampersand : method just says send this message to each thing as we iterate through. So it's going to give us back all the prices per month in theory. And that looks right. I mean, I don't know what you're going to rent in New York for $160 a month, but that's cool. So the last thing I'm going to have time to do in this video is I want to just make these methods work a little bit more like they probably should. So I'm going to get the first listing here, and you'll see what I mean. So let's look at the public methods again. Okay, so let's just run through each of these and examine if it's doing what we would like. So we'll say listing.property title. Okay, that's probably fine. There's a lot of special characters in there. I suppose that doesn't make any difference when we display it. We can sort that out. Let's look at date listed. February 28th. So we probably want to convert that to an actual date time. Let's look at price per month. That one we definitely want to do this. So we want to get like an actual floating point number that we can work with from the price. Okay, so I'm going to copy that because that's just going to be what that method is. Let's look at housing. I guess I don't really need to copy that. That's pretty easy. Housing. This one I'm not sure like what to do because I don't know. I'm wondering if like, what is that method? Strip? Yeah, strip just gets rid of all the extra fluff. I don't know what to do with that extra dash yet. I feel like there may be, let's just do this. Let's take a look at all the housing. And just see if that's the case. Bad value for range. Huh. Listings. Make sure that's the variable. Each do listing puts listing.housing. So there's something in here that it doesn't like. Oh, okay. So there is. All right, that looks like to be like the 1, 2, 3, 4 listing 5. Listings 5 dot. What would that be? Housing. Maybe it doesn't have it. So that's something we're going to have to deal with, is error handling. Let's just do a quick scan through this text. So that's the markup. So we have listings 5 markup. And then we'll put that so we can look at it a little more carefully. Yeah, this does not have that housing section because I think it normally is right in here. So we have to think about how to handle the errors with that. But it looked like my strip method would have done the job in general. Let's look at the next one. Okay, so that one is fine, and then this one was the one before. It looked like had one of the ones before had some extra details. 400 feet. So that's like, okay, so that's actually just, yeah, that's strange. We're going to just put strip so they'll get rid of all the excess space, and then we'll have to worry about what this actually means later. So down here, let's just put some of the stuff that we had looked at. So for title, it's nothing. Date, I'm going to come back to in a minute. On the price per month, I'm going to do G sub $, with an empty space. So basically what that does is just says, like, if you see a $, just stick an empty space in there. And then we'll do .2f. Housing, we were just going to call .strip. Neighborhood, I'm not sure yet. I think that there's maybe some issue with parentheses, if I remember right. So I'm just going to do .gsub opening parenthesis with empty string, and then I'm going to do .gsub again with a closing parenthesis. I'm going to give it an empty string. I think they were putting the neighborhood in parentheses, and I'd rather not have them in parentheses personally, so I'm just going to do that. The other thing that we want to do is the error happens somewhere in here, and I don't really feel like trying to parse out exactly what went wrong right now. I'm being somewhat lazy. I'm just going to rescue it and put nil. You don't have to probably put nil here, but I just, for the sake of being really explicit, that's going to put nils in our data set, which is fine. It's perfectly normal to have null values in a data set when you're going to do data analysis of some kind. You just have to deal with it, so that's what it's going to be. I'm trying to think. I'm going to look up something, and then I'm going to fix this date method, and then we're going to run all this together and see what we get. Okay, so the last little bit, I'm just going to require date up here. And then what I want to do down here for date listed is, well, it's going to be date.parse that. Okay, so we are going to have a problem for all of these where if any of these things come back nil, calling methods on it is not going to turn out so good. So what I'm going to do for each one is bump the, split the processing and the query. So we're going to say something like data equals this, and then data. So then we'll say, like, if data, we'll say, like, we can actually do this, make this look nicer, unless data.nil, right? So I'm going to do that for each one. And then unless data.nil. So basically, if you don't do this, and maybe I should have stepped through it with the error actually, but like right here, for example, if this comes back nil, which we already know that it will, if you could try to say like nil.strip, it's going to go unknown method strip for nil class or something to that effect. Let's see. There's a variety of ways for handling nil. Some better than others. Whoop, didn't mean to jump all the way down there. Should probably get rid of all that code at the bottom soon. What was I saying? Something about nil. That's all right. This should work fine. Let's go try this out. All right, so it's the same drill as usual. Open IRB, require scraper.rb, and then scraper.run. Give it the Craigslist URL. Hopefully we don't get errors. Looks pretty good. We'll say listings equals underscore, and let's do this. Listings dot first dot price per month, and we get a floating point number. Same thing that I've been doing. I'm going to get the public methods and just verify them all. Okay, so let's get the date listed and see if that came back as I was trying to make it. Okay, so we get an actual date object, February 28th, 2019. So when you run this, Craigslist is only giving you the February 28th, and the computer is going to assume that you mean this year, which realistically, if you're running this, it should. I mean, that shouldn't be a problem. Let's look at the neighborhood. That's one I forgot to look at earlier. Okay, so we probably want to call strip on this also, right? But I think we did get rid of a parenthesis at the beginning. And yeah, you can see it right here. I just looked up and saw that. So we want to call strip on there, but we also got rid of those parentheses, which is good. Let's look at the housing. Huh, that is something. Okay, so 865 feet, and there's a huge amount of space in there. We still got to clean that up a bit, but I'm going to have to do that next time, or maybe even off camera, and I'll just show you what I come up with. Let's actually do this. Let's do listings.map and housing. So we get lots of interesting stuff with this one. Any, and we'll just do ll dot nil question mark. So that's telling us that there are definitely some nils in there. I don't see them just by scanning. But that's okay. It's proving that. Let's do, we could do select. And that's exactly 7 where it didn't find it. Okay. So in the next episode, there's a few things left we have to do. Beyond just pulling back everything from one page, we have to iterate through all of the pages, right? So we just need to use our pagination concept that we worked out before, iterate through all of the pages, pull everything back, and stick it in objects. And then we'll have a data set of like 3,000, I believe, is sort of the max that they have. The 3,000 should be pretty good for what we're trying to do. We're also going to work out how to put some basic stats on here. So, I mean, we can come up with average prices. Be cool to have like average price per neighborhood, that sort of thing. What's the min and max price per neighborhood, and then kind of rank the different neighborhoods in the New York area, according to that. So we'll look at that. Got a number of things left to do with regard to that. So probably also have to clean the data a little bit more. Like for example, like let's actually do one more thing before I jump off. So let's do listings.map and neighborhood.unique. So what this .unique does is it actually well, you're going to have duplicates typically, and you can see here that people are typing these in. So there's extra spaces here. There's extra space here. Actually, it looks like all of them have an extra space, so I might just be like not understanding something. But so we can get rid of the extra space. But then you can see like somebody's typing in like tons of underscores to try to get your attention. You know, so I don't know exactly how we would go about cleaning every bit of this. Like some of it, like this has an address. You know, what we could do actually is build a list of all of the neighborhoods in New York, and then try to do some kind of matching to like you know, scan like Greenpoint, for example, as a neighborhood. So we want to actually get rid of all this at G Nassau Avenue stuff or whatever. Might have to scan like permutations so that you could say like just make it Bed-Stuy, you know, with capital B and then the rest lowercase. Get rid of underscores. Make that just Fort Greene. And if we do that, in theory, we could come up with something that gets close to a pretty clean data set with the price, and then like, you know, we'll do some statistical analysis. I think that may or may not be another series. I'm not sure. I think what I'm going to do is when I get to the end of this, I'm just going to take all the data that's cleaned up and put it in a big CSV. And then maybe we'll have another series on statistical analysis, and maybe we'll either use Python or we will use PyCall in Ruby. I've been using that on a bunch of projects lately, and it's turning out pretty cool. So anyway, if you find all that interesting and you want to stay up to date, hit the subscribe button. And in any case, I will talk to you next time. Thanks for watching.